Hello everyone. Today we are going to see about the poem Stopping by the Woods in the Snowy Evening, written by Robert Frost. Robert Lee Frost was born on March 26, 1874 and died on January 29, 1963. He was an American poet. Some of his notable works are A Boy's Will, North of Boston, New Hampshire, etc. During his lifetime, he received 4 Pulitzer Prizes for poetry and was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal in 1960 for his poetic works. Some of the poetic devices appeared in this poem are personification, alliteration, hyperbole, synecdoche, and symbolism. The characters appeared in this poem are the traveler, who himself the Robert Frost, and the horse. Moving on to the theme. So Frost, stopping by woods on a snowy evening, taps on several themes such as life, death, commitment, pessimism versus optimism, and darkness. The main theme of this piece is the journey of life. It is present throughout the poem and highlighted in the last few lines. But I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep and miles to go before I sleep. The introduction. Here, the poem tells the story of a man, that is the poet, traveling through some snowy woods on the darkest evening of the year, and is pretty much in love with what he sees around him. He is on his way back to town, but he can't quite tear himself away from the lovely and dark woods. Moving on to the first stanza. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. Here the speaker is observing woods that don't belong to them, but they know the owner lives in the village. They pass to watch the woods as they fill with snow. This reflects a sense of curiosity and the tranquility of the snowy scene. So the poem begins in delight and ends in wisdom. So it was a cold winter evening and Frost was riding home on a horse. It was the darkest evening of the year. So by that way, he stopped by the side of some woods. It was snowing heavily. The dark woods were getting filled up with snow. Now the Frost began to enjoy the lovely sight. He considered himself to be more fortunate than the owner of the woods who was missed that wonderful sight. So in the second stanza, my little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmer's near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. Here the speaker's horse might find it strange to stop in the middle of nowhere between woods and a frozen lake on the darkest evening of the year. Frost stood by the woods and watched it fill up with snow. There was no farmhouse nearby. So only the woods and the frozen lake are there, and it was the darkest evening of the year, and Frost need to go far for his farmhouse. But the horse has a doubt for what the poet has stopped over the forest. It is the woods. In the third stanza, he gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. Here, the horse shakes its harness bells, questioning if there is an error in stopping. The poet's horse has a doubt at the behavior of its master. He shocks his harness bells to ask if there was any mistake. Instead of stopping before a farmhouse, the poet had stopped at the desolate place. So, in that desolate place, there was no noise other than the sound made by the wind and the fall of the feather-like snow. So there is no other sound, and the horse has a doubt for what he has stopped over the woods. Moving on to the fourth stanza. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So here the woods are described as beautiful, deep and captivating. And then, so he wanted to go inside the lovely, deep and dark woods, but he did not do so because he had to keep his promises. So in the same way, the speaker is talking about the duties and responsibilities which he has towards himself and others. He needs to take care of many commitments and compulsions. And in this poem, the word sleeps refer to death, which overcomes everything in the material world. He could not stay inside the wood just for the sake of his aesthetic pleasure. He could not escape the realities of life and his obligations. So he had to travel many miles to perform his duties before he died, and so he has to move from the woods. The conclusion of the poem. So finally Frost concludes stopping by woods on a snowy evening by telling us that the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but he can't stand there and observe the beauty. He has lots to do and places to go. And it also means that the woods are symbolic of death. So it is an extended metaphor here. But he has many tasks to accomplish before he goes to rest. So here the rest describes both the sleep as well as the death. So life is too short to appreciate the beauty around us. Finally, he has to move from that place to fulfill all his duties and responsibilities that he has to fulfill before his life ends. Hope you will enjoy this video. Let's see in the another video. Thank you.